Here. Sorry, everybody, about that. Hopefully, we're back. Hopefully, we're back on. It was counting up in the corner as well, and it said 8 hours and a half, and I was looking forward to seeing it get to 12 hours. Um, please, everybody, let me know if we're back, if you can see me, you can hear me. Teddy's here. There we go.
All
Sorry
right,
about that.
back.
I hopefully it's working again. I do have a couple of people just messaging me to let me know. Um, there we go. Yes, we are back. We are live. That is fixed. Sorry about that, everybody. I don't know why that happened. I think Twitter was still going strong, but we're back now. Awesome. Hi, Ryan. Thank you for tuning in. So great to see you here on your work break. Thank you very much. So we're talking about extremism in groups beyond the Unification Church. And what is really interesting about that subject is the splinter groups of the Unification Church, which is probably a good place to start. So I wondered if you could give us some insight into what other groups exist that have come from the parent group, the Unification Church.
Right. Well, yeah, I remember even some people who weren't members who just kind of tuned in to Unification Church before Sun Myung Moon died. They were predicting it was going to be like a Game of Thrones kind of thing, like, oh, everyone's going to fight to be number one. So that's kind of what happened. There was Sean Moon. I think he's the one that stands out the most because he makes the most noise, just like he did as a kid. Because I remember him as a kid. He was
Mm,
like just this attention-seeking bully. He was actually kind of a bully to everyone. None of the parents could tell him what he was doing was wrong. And then, so this is what you get when you don't discipline a kid or tell him no. So there's Sean Moon's Rod of Iron Ministries. That's the AR-15 cult that we're very proud of going to the January 6th insurrection. He rubs shoulders or rubs elbows with everyone from Don Jr. to let's see, what's his name? Yeah, I'm losing track. Uh, Steve Bannon. He's just he's in that echo chamber, and his brother Justin Moon is the head of Car Arms, which is a big gun manufacturer. Because actually, his dad Sun Myung Moon was really into guns. I think it was his first company in the '60s, and he wanted to sell a lot of guns in America. So I'm like, maybe he kickstarted that too.
mm,
Uh, and so there's that splinter group, and then the Family Federation for World Peace is, Sun Myung Moon's wife, Ha Jahan Moon. She took over. I think that's more like the mainstream Unification Church. Um, and then they keep changing the name. I think it was called, what was it called? Global Federation. I don't know, but there's another son, Preston Moon, who's like the oldest, and he he has his group, and they're like, I remember seeing a report that he made good with like the UN, and I emailed the UN. I'm like, no, don't trust this guy. He's like a violent like mafia guy, but he's really good at being charismatic. But anyway, um, sorry, I'm forgetting the name of that one. That one is the most kind of undercover. But also that son, Preston Moon, is the one who he forced members to sign a document. He just like showed up to the biggest businesses of the Unification Church, like True World Foods, which is the largest distributor of sushi in America, and the Washington Times. And he just ordered them sign this document. And church members never say no to the Moons, so they did, and that's how he won those businesses over. I found out about that from Falling Out, actually, the podcast, when a guest named Tim Porter, who I know, who also grew up in the Unification Church, mentioned that. I was like, that's how it happened? Whoa,
no way.
super mafia style. Yeah. He's a very wealthy man, just worth billions. And, they have so much stuff around the world. But now that, there's this Shinzo Abe
Yeah.
assassination that had everything to do you know, um, with the exploitation of Japanese Unification Church members. They got exploited the most, and that was the biggest income stream for the Unification Church. Uh, Now that that's being cracked down on, they're selling off properties a lot, or they're just like renting them out now. They don't completely own them. It's not like the good old days where like, we got to hang out on these big campuses of properties that were, you know, from human trafficking money. But yeah, they have to be nicer. And anyway, it's good to hear. Yeah, it's weird because like I do have good memories in those spaces. Just it's a community. Like at the end of the day, it's a village. It takes a village to
Yeah.
raise someone. So it's all people who want to do good things. But at the very top, it's like whenever the Moons entered the picture, everyone got really
Yeah.
serious, military like. Sometimes they beat people up. It was like this dysfunctional family where you tried to stay away from like the top people the most. So, but the people in the lower ranks, like they were just nice. They were nice people, very misled, unfortunately. But yeah,
So really, it feels as if every person that was born into the Moon family has gone off onto some type of criminal venture where people are being exploited and harmed. At least on paper, that's kind of how it feels.
right. Yeah, it's just they're used to these kids of the Moon family who are now like kind of older adults now, middle age or older, like they were bowed to by full grown adults since they were born. Like how can it's like they can just grunt things at people. They literally grunt at them, and people will do it. I think like I'm kind of late to this show, Succession, but in season two, I just watched this and I posted about it because it really triggered some memories. There's like this scene. It's called like "Bore on the Floor," like where the dad, Logan Roy, he's like, let's play bore on the floor, where he like accuses people of stuff that I don't think they did, and he basically humiliates them. I saw in the like post show kind of reflection that like that actually was inspired by Stalin. The guy looked up what Stalin used to do, and he would humiliate people and accuse them of things and just get in their face and
Mm.
intimidate people. This is Logan Roy in the show. Um, for those of you who don't know the show, sorry, you might not have a lot of context, but I was like, yeah, that's what the Moons did to us. They would get up in our face and be like, "Did you blah blah blah? Huh? Did you? Yeah, no, you're lying." It's something out of a movie, like literally out of a show. Uh, so it's just yeah, and I imagine the Trumps probably
Oh my
had similar
gosh.
behavior. I posted something after Mary Trump wrote her book, her kind of like bio about growing up in the Trumps and whatnot, and just from a few excerpts, I was making multiple comparisons from the few excerpts that were like put online. Like there was one guy in the Trump family, one father who like when his wife woke up, he had a gun pointed at her just and like laughed like
Oh.
yeah. And so there was actually this one member of the Moon family who there's a book written about him called In the
Mm.
Shadow of the Moons by his ex-wife Nan Hong, and he used to like point a gun at her and be like, "Do you know what I could do, to you with this, just for fun?" It's very similar, and how like the Trumps had like, other people do their homework. There were maybe one or a few of the guys, yeah. Moons had that too, and if they didn't do the homework right or they got a bad grade or something, the person would get beat up or humiliated somehow, just like left in the street. It's really, yeah, it's that crazy. It's real life. Yeah.
It's wild. When I was in school, there was a group of girls that were horrific bullies, and their tactic was to go around and accuse vulnerable pupils that wouldn't really defend themselves, of calling their mums bitches or whores. You called my mum a bitch, and then of course the person would say, "Why would I do that? No, I didn't." And
Jeez.
that would be the catalyst for this group of people to just beat this person up. And
Wow.
it was just like a really horrific thing that happened constantly, and we had nowhere near enough. support in school for that sort of thing. But it's a kind of very small example of how a group of people with no boundaries or um no consequences really, uh to just go around doing whatever they wanted to whoever they wanted. And if you put that on a scale of individuals with endless connections to people in positions of power, money, devout followers all around the world, it's unfathomable to consider the
Yeah.
possibilities of what
And
that could result in.
absolutely, yeah. And I want to add to that because when people hear a statement like that, I'm pretty sure their first thought is like, then why would you join this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm always like rolling my eyes and like, it's so much more complex than that. But my easiest answer to that is to be like, well, this guy recruited people to go on college campuses. And if you remember how you felt in college, right, you were probably worried about getting a job. You were also excited about like finding what your path was going to be, but you knew that every decision you made was going to like be this like direction for the rest of your life that as you knew it. So that's scary and vulnerable, and you're away from your parents for the first time. This is where cults, recruit the most, is like on college campuses, and then they give them. They're like, hey, they're funded by, again, human trafficking money usually, and they have these beautiful centers, and people who are really hyped up and love bomb them, and in the Moonies, it was a diverse community. I actually kind of appreciated that it was very diverse. So it's like, whoa, what is this? Hey, oh, other people are doing it too. There's the peer pressure. So yeah, I just wanted to add that to be like, well, that's it's in that environment that people join.
And that's something that keeps popping up in conversations that I've had throughout this stream today, in terms of people talking about the positive experiences that they've had, that they appreciate in the connections and friendships that they've made with peers and individuals who are also in this very abusive and destructive environment. I don't know if I don't think I'm necessarily talking about trauma bonding. Maybe that happens to individuals once they leave and communicate about their experiences and unpack everything. But not everybody in these groups are going to be perpetrating the abuse and inflicting negativity on you. I don't know if you still have connections with people that you grew up with that you would consider friends.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. I feel like it, like, to different degrees now. Like before, it was just automatic. It's like, okay, we're in the same tribe essentially, right? So we're friends, and we're gonna be. It's like being on a football team or something, right? You're like, okay, we're gonna support each other, and you know, the outside world is gonna make us feel like nothing or like criticize us, but we're here for each other. So it was like, yeah, I guess it was like trauma bonding kind of. But and I still see these guys from time to time. We have that space, we have that familiar past. But outside of the Unification Church, it's like that's really what bonded us. And I think our personalities are actually quite different, and so they're not the friends I would go to if one of them lived near me. I wouldn't hang out with them all the time. We have different characteristics. So, but they were my childhood friends, and they were there for me in that space. And so, I appreciate that I had that as a kid. Yeah.
You've spoken about being quite close to the Moon children when you were growing up in the Unification Church. And Lisa Cohn talks about this as well. I don't know if there's ever a time in your lives where you two would have crossed paths without realizing.
Oh, Lisa.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think we were kind of. Let's see. Yeah, no, I never knew her until her book came out. I'm like, oh, who is? Oh, someone else is speaking out. Hell yeah! So like, I just contacted her, and I was like, I love what you're doing, and we both were just like supporting each other and cheering each other on. But no, I think she was already maybe in college when I was a little kid. She's a bit older than me, so and yeah, they were closer to the Moons. They were buddies. They were more of the same age as the Moons.
Right.
So of that family, like average age. So like I was quite younger. I'm like a little bit older than Sean Moon, and Sean Moon's the last son of that family of, I think, is it
Okay.
13 kids? I don't know. There's probably a bunch more that we don't know about, but
Yeah.
like in the family with Hak Jahan, yeah. So uh, drawing a blank again. I forgot where I was going or how this question started. I do that a lot.
When I was talking to Lisa Van Arsdale earlier about her experiences in visiting different cults and staying with different groups, she mentioned the yearly festival that the Rod of Iron Ministries has, that she went to one year, and they had um, just everything that you can imagine in the form of bullets. So she has a bullet thermos that she got a hold of. Um, um, AR-15 earrings that were specifically made and sold at this event. Um, and it's a strange thing because it's like an event for, I think, the Rod of Iron Ministries and Sean Moon to exercise their like, wow, look at us and all of our guns. But also it's strange because they're like, come and visit us. We're opening our doors to other groups. What do you think the motivation is behind that?
I think part of it is that they want to keep making money. I don't know. Yeah, it's. I think they just found, you know, a common cause with these this antisocial far right kind of agenda, that they helped construct. I mean, the Washington Times, which is, again, Unification Church founded paper from 1982, they they were the first ones, I think, to. I mean, they were very blasphemous and they were very far right back when that stuff wasn't taken as seriously as widely. So I think because it was a paper that didn't sell that much, because it was too wacky. Um, they just had all this money backing it because it's a cult and cults make lots of money. Like
Yeah.
if you think about cults where they have mass suicides, just think of that same amount of devotion into raising money for businesses. So just to have this constant subjective, stream of news, if you want to call it that. And so, yeah, it's just this marriage of, they help make that world. And so that
Yeah.
this is it coming back to them, and keep doing that. I should get wireless headphones. Um, but yeah, so I think it's just, um, they, yeah, they're a brand essentially. They want to be a
Yeah.
brand. They're kind of, that's their thing. They're just these kids, these Moon kids. Their whole brand is like, democracy is stupid, or like fascist, basically, just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
extreme nationalism and just any, since systemic injustices don't exist. It's you got to work for, you know, you got to work to make it. And I believe that, but I also believe like, it's like, oh, this is coming from someone who came from this empire of human trafficking, and there's that word again.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say shit, man. Like, come on.
The parallels are just uncanny when you think about Trump being paid to speak at an FFWP event and endorse the message of interfaith. As somebody else said, oh, they do a lot of interfaith stuff, which I think is important. I think it might have actually been Lisa Van Arsdale talking about the Rod of Iron Ministries message is about interfaith. Um, and
Yeah.
it's funny because it's all from the same playbook, because that's one of the Unification Church's things is interfaith and interharmony, and
Oh,
um it's of course most likely for PR reasons,
yeah.
but what you're seeing with the crossover of established organizations of power, um, Trump endorsing the Unification Church, and then the Proud Boys showing up to a Rod of Iron Ministries festival. It's almost like they are all doing the same thing. I also wonder if it's a ploy to gather support from groups that are pro guns, and saying, here we have guns. My brother, he could hook you up with some kind of munitions stuff that he has going on. Is it like networking to kind of all work together and build a bigger empire in the far right space?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's, yeah, they just, it's, I always think of history, like where does this come from, right? Usually I attribute it to in the 17th century, a lot of like these puritanical, Europeans, fanatics in exile. They came to the United States and set up shop. And in the Library of Congress, there's this one link I keep that explains that and how it helped shape, a lot of what this country became. I feel like a lot of it comes from that. American culture it's the most religious of all the wealthy nations. So, you guys got lucky. Like you got rid of your fanatics, so that they all came here. So
Well, we do
this
have
is
the monarchy, though. We do still have the monarchy.
That's true. I mean, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. It's everywhere has their yeah, crazy
Criminal
power
families.
extreme. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just people. I think part of it is just traumatized people. They're just traumatized people acting out, finding. It's like, why do people join gangs? It's just like it's a gang, but like um, maybe because of the color of their skin, they get more legitimacy on like more pop culture stages and whatnot. They're not seen as like these like rappers or gangsters or whatever, like how we used to view people like that until the movie like Straight Outta Compton came out. It's like, oh, they weren't lying. Anyway, but yeah.
I saw a post the other day. I can't remember if it was from you or Elgin, and it was a picture of Hak Jahan on her own at a big event. And some young moon had been cropped out of the picture, and it was either you or Elgin had written that they're trying to write him out of the unification law. Like
Right.
she is now the face of the movement. Would you say that's the direction that the church is trying to go in?
Oh yeah, totally. I think part of it is her processing the realization of like, oh, he was actually really abusive, and I actually didn't like that he slept around and thought he had magical sexual powers, like and that's how he justified it. But yeah, I think part of no, it's also just that I don't know. It might also have to do with the fact that Sean Moon like claims Sun Myung Moon. It's like, oh, I followed everything my father said, and I don't listen to my mother. This very patriarchal polarization. So I think maybe Hak Jahan eventually was like, all right, you can keep that. That doesn't empower me as much. Or like, if I have to judge it on this scale of what Sun Myung Moon said, then like I'm gonna make my own scale. At least that's what I think. Yeah.
When people that don't know too much about the Unification Church or the Moonies, when they hear one of those terms, the image of the mass weddings might be something that springs to mind. What's your understanding of those ceremonies now? Is that something that still takes place? And how does it work now that Sun Myung Moon is dead?
Yeah, it takes place. There was one, I think maybe about a week or two in Korea. Yeah, someone I know whose next Mooney went just to kind of check it out. She shot some video. I'm like, it's still going on. It looks like, the opening ceremony of the Olympics or something. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the short answer is it makes a lot of money. It's not an official wedding, but it's like this spiritual ceremony that feels special. And I think I think when my brother went, my oldest brother back in the 90s, it was like 2 grand. And I think that was just the fee to like go, like,
Oh,
accommodations and the plane trip there, you got to pay for that yourself. So, yeah, it's probably a lot more now. Some people have like a recommitment, marriage ceremony through it or something, like they just try to get those numbers up. So yeah, that's that. And just the ideology behind this sacredness of the marriage is, for people who don't know, is that in the Unification Church, it's a Christian cult. They believe that Adam and Eve had or Eve had sex with Satan in the Garden of Eden, and then had sex with Adam, and then humanity was intoxicated with evil blood, and so Sun Myung Moon, when he was born as the second coming of Jesus, he was able to cleanse that blood. So anyone who joined, their children would be free of that sin. So like supposedly I would have pure blood. But if I had sex outside of, that pool, this is very eugenics, right? Then I would lose that. And so, yep, I'm just a regular dude, just like all you sinners.
And not to mention that if you were someone who was still seen as impure, even after a mass wedding pairing by Sun Myung Moon, you could always receive the sperm, which will purify your womb from Sun Myung Moon, and therefore become pure that way. So many different workarounds, many different justifications for just corrupt behavior, and really just hypocrisy, sheer hypocrisy at the most wild lengths, especially when you look at some of Nansuk's memoir as well, about her experiences in the Unification Church, as you've spoken about in our talk today. Horrific, just horrible, awful, in the inner circle outwards. So what is the future of the Unification Church now? Numbers seem to be, I don't know. I think this about everyone. Somebody said, who will take over Scientology when David Miscavige dies? And I was like, there is no Scientology past David Miscavige. Like, in my mind, it's not something that continues. I don't know what the Unification Church will look like in a few years' time. I feel like numbers are dwindling. I could be wrong. And also with the restrictions and the legislation that's coming about in Japan, is there a change in tide, Teddy? Are we moving in the right direction?
Yeah, and I think we can thank the lawyers against spiritual sales in Japan, who are just this, they're investigating all that with the LDP, the connections with the government and everything, who's taken dirty church money, and yeah, I think we are kind of witnessing, yeah, like it is kind of dwindling, but at the same time, the people who join, I think, they put a lot of stake in it, and I think to drop it is too extreme. Like they'll always be, I think even people who leave will have some fond memories or things that they speak of that were good, or maybe they learned some things, or maybe they met their significant other through it and left, I think people want to feel that it had meaning. And I think it's really hard to digest for anyone if they were part of like an exploitative program for like, some of their young adult years or like decades or something. It's such a hard pill to swallow that I don't know what that's like. I was born into it. It was never my choice. So like, I think I could maybe walk away a little easier, but for people who did join, yeah, I think that's harder. So I think they're going to probably try to sustain it in their own way. But I feel like my duty, or I don't want to say duty, but I feel like what I have to offer is that I grew up near the moons, and some people are like, but this one didn't seem so bad. I'm like, oh, he was the most violent, like Preston Moon, like he's like totally smooth looking dude and businessman, but oh my God, he is a scary monster. He's just a monster. And they're all, just they're a dysfunctional family. They're just traumatized.
With power and wealth and reach, and
Mm-hmm.
it's scary. It's really just to hear it broken down in the way that you explore the Unification Church, the way that Elgin does on the Falling Out podcast. It's terrifying. It's scary, and it reaches around the globe. I could not believe the revelation I had when Elgin said to me at CrimeCon last year during our panel that the the motivation behind the mass weddings of partnering individuals from different countries is most likely to give passage through citizenship so that people can move freely from one country to another, to have this human trafficking ring expand around the world. And when Elgin said that to me, it was such a revelation. I was like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. But it's under the guise of religion, and the espousing of kind of twisted religious beliefs, which can't be disputed in the realm of indoctrination. And that's why it's such a nefarious thing to not only unpack, but also to look at in terms of all of the other criminal activity that's taking place. Teddy, it is a monster that's almost impossible to tackle.
Yeah, there's actually a name for that. It's called marriage trafficking. I'm like, it's that
No
common?
way.
Yeah, marriage trafficking. Yeah.
I
And
had no idea that there was an actual name for that.
yeah,
Wow, marriage trafficking.
there
Another
was a,
revelation.
yeah, that was a revelation for me. I think that was a revelation for a lot of us activists over the last few years, like learning about that. We're like, that's why there's like interracial marriage. Like, I'm half Japanese, so who knows, But
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Wow.
no, but I feel like my parents do. They do love each other. Like I feel like I lucked out. Some other families, it's that they just want nothing to do with each other, and the kids can see
Yeah.
it clearly. Um, but yeah, I learned that recently too, the marriage trafficking thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Teddy Hose. I'm such a big fan of Teddy Hose. I had to say to everybody, don't have a fangirl moment. We were supposed to have Sarah Hightower with us today, who is an expert on Aum Shinrikyo, and I think that to be able to draw the parallels between and the Unification Church would have been amazing. But hopefully, I'll have a chance to catch up with Sarah another time. I've never met an Aum Shinrikyo expert, and I typically hear more often than not that people are looking for more information on that group because it's so sparse. So I need to catch up with Sarah, and I need to have that conversation. I'm sad it couldn't happen today, but things happen. The stream also ended sporadically, or strangely halfway through our conversation, which I apologize for. But for anybody interested in hearing more about you and your experiences, Teddy, and the work that you do, where are some places that they might find you?
If you go to the press section of my website, it's just my name, teddyhose.com, and you click press. Yeah, I posted a lot of my interviews, my podcasts, and documentaries and whatnot. Yeah, so that's kind of the main space, or at Teddy Hose on Twitter, at Teddy Hose on Instagram as well, or on Facebook. You can find me there. And yeah, I'm actually it's NDA. I can't say who did the documentary, but it's supposed to come out this year. There's supposed to be another one on Netflix, so just like waiting for that. But yeah, it's pretty badass. Like we had some photos that I didn't know people took photos at this one extreme event, and I was like, what? You
Ooh.
have it? Send them to me high res, and like pass them off. So looking forward to that one.
Oh my goodness. Isn't it typical of Netflix to do that as soon as my dad's Netflix that I watch, I can't watch anymore because we don't live in the same house.
uh,
Ooh, Netflix reeling us back in with these documentaries.
Mhm.
Fantastic, Teddy. I appreciate you and your time today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for doing this, and thanks for having me.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye, Teddy. Bye. Oh my goodness.